How's it going, everybody? Sir Douglas here of the Argos Fancast, and today, upon sober review, the 111th Grey Cup, a game that I was going to do an upon sober review for, whether the Argos were in it or not, but the Argos made it. They made it into the game to take on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So let's get into it right away. First off, first of all, I was actually in Vancouver for this game. Went around, saw some of the sights, attended the Grey Cup Festival. It was actually pretty good. I do have some. There are some minor gripes with it that I had, but for the most part it was all right. The East Social Hall in particular was a massive improvement over Hamilton, so that kind of lends credence to my theory that Hamilton skunked the other teams in the East, so they can have their own room. But yeah, like I said, the zip line was actually a really cool feature this year. They had, and of course, and they had. I know they had like a couple of school days for the school kids to come out, and they were all decked out, and they were all given BC Lions shirts, and I thought that was pretty. Thought that was pretty awesome. But enough of the. But I'm not gonna get into the finer points of the festival here because I mean, that's debates that are gonna rage on now for at least the next month and a half. You know, to keep the conversation going. let's Until the schedule comes out at least. Let's get into the Grey Cup itself. 52,000 plus were at BC Place, and it was definitely a pro Winnipeg crowd for sure. And in some cases, I thought it was kind of a pro Winnipeg production almost. But Argo fans, we did show up both in BC Place, and trust me, we could definitely hear you from back home as well. There, whether you were watching it actually in your living rooms or you actually went out to like one of a dozen different watch parties that were going on across the city, we definitely felt your energy as the game was going on. Uh, Ben Major was the referee for this game, and once again we got a nice little tidbit of humor and humor out of him when at the coin toss he kind of forgot to ask the Argos what they were gonna call when Buddy from Coinbase flipped the coin, and he kind of went, "Oops, my bad." So I thought that was pretty funny. But ultimately, Winnipeg won the coin toss, and they elected to receive the ball first. So the ball started off with Winnipeg, and the Argos D showed up early and forced a Winnipeg 2 and out. Argos got the ball back, and it was it was actually a really good return by Janarian Grant. Got it back to midfield after the punt, and the Argos were rowing right up the field. They got they got pretty close to the goal line too. They actually got to the 1 yard line, but they tried something that they've tried throughout the season to not really much success, and that was try to get Winnipeg to bite on a hard count on a 3rd and 1. Didn't work, so they just backed him up, and Argos take the and with Liram Hiralahu coming out, he kicked the field goal, and it was an early 3-0 lead for Toronto. Winnipeg got the ball back. It was another 2 and out. Once again, the Argos defense was red hot going into this game, and they remained red hot for the early going. Um, Toronto got the ball back. It wasn't. They didn't this time. This time it didn't go as well as we'd hoped. It was kind of got a first down, but the drive kind of stalled. So John Haggerty came out to punt, and then we saw Winnipeg finally wake up, and first tiny mistake from the Argo defense, where Zach Galeros passed it to Ontario Wilson, and Metier turned the wrong way at the start of the play, and Wilson made no mistake in catching it. And then that pretty much was the catalyst to start the drive that eventually led to a 1st and goal, where Ontario Wilson, once again, he was running the ball in. He basically just kind of bounced off his line and rotated into the end zone for a touchdown. Extra point was good, and Winnipeg takes an early Winnipeg now takes the early 7-3 lead. Then on the kickoff, in their eagerness to try and not give the ball to Janarian Grant, they accidentally kicked the ball out of bounds. So gives the Argos great position to start the drive, but they didn't really do much with it. So, but that was the end of the. But with that was the end of the first quarter. Winnipeg 7, Toronto 3 after 1. And the statistics were very, very close after the first quarter. So this was kind of the stage in the game where they were both kind of feeling each other out to see what they were going to try and do. Ended up being, unfortunately, the drive kind of stalled, and then it didn't really stall. It was pretty much a 2-1 out at that point. Winnipeg got the ball back. For them it was a 2-1. So basically, then we got into a period where it was kind of where you got for a couple of 2-1 outs. Then we got to the Winnipeg's fifth drive, where they started to really, where basically now Ontario Wilson, once again, he actually had a pretty good game. And then we started seeing Kenny Lawler get in on the act a little bit as well. Well, this was one of the things I said at the end, as a preview to the Grey Cup. They have to cover Kenny Lawler, and Argos did actually a half decent job doing it. They actually put our best defender, Benji Franklin. Never thought I'd say that if you asked me that in week 1. They actually put our Benji Franklin on him. I thought he did an excellent job against one of the best receivers in the league. Then we got basically. They pretty much got to Winnipeg's drive in this one got very, very close. They got to inside the 10, but on the first and goal, Collaros was actually rushed and got forced to throw it away. And on the second and goal, Collaros then got sacked by pretty much the whole damn defensive line. Because I saw that was Ralph Hawley in on it, Jake Serezna in on it, Flo was in on it, I saw Robbie Smith on it. The entire defensive line got to him on the second and goal, and that forced Castillo to come out, kick a field goal. Winnipeg now had a 7-point lead. Then on Toronto's fifth drive, Nick Arbuckle, who was the starter of this game after Chad Kelly broke his leg in the East Final. It was really cool. It was actually a really cool moment here because Arbuckle threw it to Mackay Polk, and he actually kind of caught the ball off his face. Yeah, the ball kind of hit him square in the helmet, and he kind of had to use that helmet to brace the ball as he caught it off his face. I thought that was pretty cool, and it ended up being, and oddly enough, that was only for a first down as opposed to getting any points. But that was, like I said, I thought that was a pretty cool thing. Then of course Then we just, once again, the Argos kind of setting up and starting to row a little bit as Kadeem Carey got a short gain, and then Nick Arbuckle yeets it out to Monte Coxie for a nice big gain for a first down. Then we got to the 3-minute warning. So this game actually felt like it moved. The game felt like it moved pretty quickly in the first half. Then a funny moment where Dejan Brissett was in motion and he kind of tripped over the line of scrimmage. Refs immediately, flags, offside. But and then right after the offside, then Willie Jefferson came in and sacked Nick Arbuckle. And then Liram Hajrullahu came out there, kicked a field goal to cut the lead to 4. It was 10-6. On this play, though, this is where I thought initially that this should have been a roughing the kicker penalty, but it turns out that the Winnipeg line pushed Toronto blockers into Liram Hajrullahu, and he actually got hurt, and he actually got hurt because of it. And he was actually noticeably limping as he came off the field, and actually throughout the continuation of the game, he continued to be limping. Considering that we got one of the best kickers and one of the more accurate, one of the best kickers in the league, this is not a good thing. But the next drive for Winnipeg, Brady Oliveira once again proving very hard to bring down. But then on the second down, Zach Caleros throws the ball, and Benji Franklin made one hell of a pick here. And I still can't believe I'm saying this. Benji Franklin is one of the most improved players in the CFL this season by far. And if you add, you can go back to the videos in week 1, week 2, week 3 where I was crapping all over the guy. And the amount of progression that he showed throughout the season has been fantastic. Fantastic. He turned into one of our best defenders. So kudos to him, considering that, well, yeah, you just saw it. He caused a turnover. Toronto gets the ball back, and then they once again they started putting drive. They started really putting drives together. One really good play here was Nick Arbuckle found Deshaun Brissett. He got hit low, and it kind of did like a front flip to get and did a nice little break fall in order to get to get a first down. I thought that was pretty neat. That kind of got the crowd on their feet a little bit. And then of course we saw Nick Arbuckle doing the shovel pass to Deontay McMahon, and he got a massive first down, but of course, Laundry holding goes back, and they pretty much just at that point just said, you know what, screw it. We're just going to settle for the field goal here. Liram Hajrullahu limps out there, and he was able to still kick, which was surprising, and he was able to cut the lead to 1. It was now 10-9. Winnipeg then goes into victory formation to end the half. At this point, of course, because it is the Grey Cup, my heart's still beating out of my chest, but I was like, this is going according to plan. This is exactly what's going. This is all going according to plan. Toronto kept it close in order to get to the half, and well, here we go again. So, because keep in mind, we were actually in 2022 against the same Winnipeg Blue Bomber team. The Argos were down by 3 at the half and came back to win by 1. Now we were down by 1. See where I'm going here? Anyway, the halftime concert, Jonas Brothers, were actually pretty good. I'm not really, like I said, I'm not really into Jonas Brothers at all. I'm not really into modern music for the most part, but certain modern music, yeah. But Jonas Brothers aren't my thing. But you know what? They put on a good show. They put on a good show for halftime, so good on them. At this point, also, if you took a look at the stats for the second quarter, at the end of the half, they were still very close. Still very close at this point. So let's see what the second half now brings. One thing I did notice is that Janarian Grant coming out of the locker room now had his hair taped up. Now I know what you're thinking. Remember, in the CFL, the hair, if you pull a man's dreads, that is a legal tackle. Even though regardless of any sort of neck injury or whatever that can happen, if you pull a man's dreads, that's still going to be considered a legal tackle. So now he's got his hair taped up, but Argos get the ball back to start the second half. We started seeing David Unger the third get involved, and let's put it this way: it was a bit of a broken play, but he still got the first down with it. So that's good. That was a good start to the drive. Unfortunately, the drive didn't go much further than that. And then Winnipeg, then we saw not Winnipeg just yet, but John Haggerty punts the ball, and Lucky Whitehead for Winnipeg let the ball bounce. It actually went into the end zone. He ended up surrendering the punt single. So now we're at a tie ball game. So we're right back to where we started. Winnipeg, however, didn't do anything with the ensuing drive. It ended up being a 2-and-out. Toronto once again gets the ball back. Unfortunately, they ended up getting an illegal block penalty. Got pushed back inside their own 10-yard line. So they started. So then they started going again, and once again the Argos started putting plays together, started pulling together. However, the drive did not end the way we wanted it to, as Willie Jefferson got in on Nick Arbuckle, actually stripped him of the ball on a sack, but Peter Nicastro was right there to pick the ball back up. So it was third. It was going to be third down regardless, but at least this way it wasn't. We were able to get the ball away from the position it was away from where we had it. However, you could say in typical Argo fashion, you could say this was an Argo bounce here, but Haggerty with a kick, Lucky Whitehead got the ball, but Fraser Sopik, it came out of nowhere and stripped him, and the Argos recovered. So now the Argos get excellent field position to restart the drive. And, well, made no mistake here. Nick Arbuckle found Kevin Mittal. He scampers into the end zone, and actually he had to do a hurdle to clear the last man, it was a thing. That hurdle was a thing of beauty. I loved seeing it. I could watch it again and again and again. Fantastic. It was a fantastic play. Extra point was good. Toronto now leads by a touchdown. And then when Winnipeg ends up getting the ball back, once again, not much there. The defense still there. Wynton McManus started to throw his weight around a little bit too. Metier was throwing his weight around a little bit, so ended up being another 2-and-out for Winnipeg. Next drive for Toronto, that didn't go very well. Basically, Nick Arbuckle launches the ball out there, and it was intercepted by Winnipeg. Definitely some form of communication error, because when I watched it, receiver went left when he should have gone right, and unfortunately, the ball just floated right into the hands of Terry Bonds to give Winnipeg the ball back. So now Winnipeg gets the ball, but then we see Brady Oliveira somehow, some way breaking through our front seven. I mean, it happens. You know what they say, broken clock is right twice a day. And Brady got through, and big gain for him. But then we saw what I thought was the TSN turning point of the game. This right here, this next play right here was a TSN turning point. Zach Collaros threw the ball looking for Ontario Wilson. It was incomplete. However, Derek Parrish came in and caught Zach Collaros on his throwing hand. It was perhaps one of the grossest things I've ever seen on the replay. Honestly, I nearly vomited looking at it, because like the tip of his finger, he was kind of bending it open. I'm just getting ready to vomit thinking about it. But unfortunately, with that, it was a blood injury. He had to come off the field, because there's no way you're gonna. Just player safety at this point. There's no way you're gonna stay out there. When you think about it, you got to be in some pain. That's gonna cause an incredible amount of pain, to be quite honest. But I'll explain why this is a TSN turning point after I get through the next couple of drives. So with that, Winnipeg still had the ball. Sergio Castillo kicked a field goal. They cut the lead to 17-13. Argos get the ball back. Got maybe one first down. Didn't get much after that. Here comes another really odd. Here comes something else that was kind of odd, and a lot of people don't really realize this. But John Haggerty went back to punt. The defenders got, like, something happened that it was just completely broken, and one of the defenders got to him completely untouched, was able to block the ball without hitting him. The ball starts bouncing backwards. Now, One of the Winnipeg, now I believe it's Brian Haralamana, tried to come back to recover the ball. One of the Winnipeg players pulled on him to prevent that from happening. You can't do that. The other team, both teams have once the ball comes loose, both teams have a right to get that ball. And after some discussion, Ben Major came out and said this was a loose ball interference penalty. Toronto now gets the ball back for a first down. And with that, the third quarter came to an end. Now at this point, the Argos started dominating the offensive statistics now. So, but unfortunately, that even with that, Winnipeg still ended up getting the ball back anyway because Nick Arbuckle tried to throw the ball, and it was intercepted by a leaping Willie Jefferson. So, yeah. So, all that for nothing. Oh, well. Winnipeg's next drive. Now we see the backup quarterback for Winnipeg coming into the game. He obviously didn't, he didn't do all that much. Basically was just incomplete passes all over the place. He was able to get lucky on one of them because it was, Benji Franklin did try to go for the ball. It ended up being defensive pass interference, and it was there was no doubt about it. It was. However, when they got close to the end zone, that spot of the foul got him pretty close to the end zone, and then next play right after that, Benji Franklin nearly intercepted the ball. So he shook and it just went right through his hands. So yeah, that was unfortunate for him. Winnipeg, however, didn't do much of anything. But Castillo then kicked another field goal. It was 17-16. Toronto still leads by 1, and we're in the fourth quarter now. We are in the fourth quarter now. Now everything's starting to really, if you're an Argo fan, things are starting to really heat up. You know what I mean? Argos get the ball back, and they were able to. And this was pretty much now a lot of runs because now Toronto knows they are in. The Toronto still has the lead. They can control the clock, and it doesn't matter what Winnipeg can do. So a lot of running for this one. You saw Kadeem Carey for the most part, Deontay McMahon as well. But once they get inside the red zone, Nick Arbuckle decided to pass. He found Dejon Brissett wide open. Touchdown for Toronto. Extra point was good. Toronto now has an 8-point lead. Then on Winnipeg's next drive, Zach Collaros gets back into the game, and this is where the TSN turning point comes in. Obviously, they had to stitch his hand back together, but he had to put a glove on. Zach Collaros doesn't throw with a glove on. He's a barehanded thrower. This, I think, caused the next sequence of events. Okay, that I honestly think that obviously the pain running through his hand too. It's got to be because that's going to prevent you from gripping the ball very tightly. That's going to impact your arm. That's going to impact your throw. Impact all your mechanics. Everything. This was the TSN. That was the TSN turning point right there. His first pass intercepted by Deshaun Amos. His first pass on the drive was intercepted by Deshaun Amos. It was returned to the Winnipeg 15. So you can tell immediately that this was not good if you're a Winnipeg fan. Winnipeg, however, started getting a little salty. Diedrich Nichols was getting a little bit salty. He got a yellow card for it. If you don't know, that's what I call the misconduct foul. So there was first and goal on the 8. Argos' bane of their existence this season. So first and goal on the 8. Kadeem Carey got 2 on the first down. On the second down, it was swatted down at the line of scrimmage. So Liram Hajrullahu comes out for the field goal, and it's 27-16 Toronto lead. Now, if you were at the game, this is where number one, you saw a streaker hit the field, and we all know It's the internet. There's probably more pictures of that than there were of anything else over the over the whole weekend. And if you were in the stands, I know where I was sitting. Winnipeg fans started chanting, "We're not done yet. We're not done yet." Well, this is we'll see. Winnipeg obviously starting to feel like they're getting a little bit desperate. Now they're going to a lot of passes. And ultimately, this is pretty much the end of it right here. Zach Collaros was intercepted by Robert Priester. He had Benji Franklin with him to help block, but he was gone. He caught it, ran it. See you later. He could have ran all the way to Toronto at this point. Robert Priester gets himself a pick 6 in the Grey Cup. Extra point good. Toronto now leads 34-16. This is when the Argo fans that were close by were chanting right back to them, "Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are." Good little bit of banter there. You don't hear that much in CFL stadiums. You don't see a lot of banter between the fans. It was good. It was a good thing to have. Once again, Winnipeg gets the ball back, and Zach Collaros once again intercepted. This time it was Winton McManus. You could see him. He was struggling. He was stumbling, bumbling, and he ultimately was just short of a pick 6. Just short. It was like 5 yards short or something. I was really hoping Wint was going to get a pick 6 because he deserves it, right? But ultimately, Kadeem Carey on Toronto's drive made no mistake. Extra point good. It was touchdown for Toronto. 41-16 lead. And at this point, Winnipeg gets a touchdown back to make it 41-24, but ultimately Toronto victory formation. And what can I say? The Argos, once again, the kings of football. 19-time Grey Cup champions with everything going against them. The Argos pull out. You could say it was a very unlikely victory. Some people will say it was an unlikely victory. If you're an Argo fan, I said this in BC Place, I'll say it again. We don't lose Grey Cup games. Period. Full stop. With that, I mean, just going back to the game really quick, Robert Priester's pick 6 was actually 4 yards short of the record set by one of the all-time greats in Joe King Kroll. That was actually really good for Robert Priester. And then people also say, "Oh, Tom Brady is the GOAT." Nah. Pinball Clemens is the GOAT. He has, ever since becoming an employee of the Toronto Argonauts, they haven't lost a Grey Cup game. Pinball himself can now claim he's now got 8 rings. 3 as a player, 1 as a coach, 4 as an executive. Or 2 as an executive and 2 as general manager. Pinball Clemens truly is the GOAT. And one last thing, folks. To the bookies who made the Argos 9.5 point dogs, to all of the pundits who said that the Argos didn't have a snowball's chance, to all the fans, to all the fans of the opposing teams who have been slagging us, who've been telling us that we support garbage organizations, to those who have said that we need to throw our jerseys out, to those who have straight up slandered us, straight up like just been absolute assholes to us this season. I've got 3 words for you. That's it. That's going to end the upon sober review aspect of this. Hold on, let me get this gear off. Okay, so now that I can see again, because I can't see through those glasses. Um, so going into the programming notes now. We're going into the CFL offseason. Obviously, there's going to be no games for me to do upon sober reviews anymore. But there's a couple of big things coming up. We got schedule release coming up, so I'll be doing a long form video for that. We got free agency coming up. I'll maybe do. We'll see what we're gonna do about that. But we got Toronto's potential free agent list. We got that. So basically, that might be like a three-parter to see like basically now ultimately we'll see. I'm thinking it's going to be in three parts. So basically way before free agency, legal tampering period, and then the actual free agency itself. And then of course in the new year we've got the draft, and we've got training camp coming up in 2025. So there's still going to be content coming out this off season. It's just not going to be as frequent. So bear that in mind. But of course, if there's anything big that comes out, obviously I'll talk about it, and we'll discuss it, and if it's worth discussing, I'll make a video on it. If not, then I might just do a quick little short about it. But yeah, so that's pretty much going to do it for this season. This to me is the worst time of year because we all know that CFL usually tends to go dark for like the first month or so, and then obviously you got the holidays, and then we kind of just it kind of drip feeds, and then we ultimately snow melts outside, and we'll be back at it before you know it. So to all of you who have subscribed this season, thank you very much. From the bottom of my heart. I honestly didn't think I'd be getting this amount of subscribers in the first season. I'll be honest. I mean, 42. I mean, right now I just checked. It's 42 subscribers. I honestly didn't think I'd get to this. I didn't think I'd get up to that number this season. I mean, I know CFL talk is kind of, especially if you're just like a fan like myself. CFL talk isn't really all that popular, and CFL channels in particular are kind of, under the radar compared to some of the bigger stuff that's out there, but at least I know that all my work isn't in vain for this. So that's going to do it here. So please, once again, continue to like videos. Comment if you want. Maybe if there's something else you want me to do, like if you want me to do an Upon Sober review of the Super Bowl, I can do that in February. I might end up doing that. I have no idea. We'll find out. And then, please, and of course, as always, please subscribe. Please subscribe as well. That's pretty much going to do it for me here. I will see you guys when the schedule comes out and going onward into the off season. I'll still be here. Like I said, it's just not going to be as frequent. But for me, have yourselves a happy holidays, and we'll see you again very, very soon. Cheers, everyone.